going head-to-head in the PREM, which is 319 to Sim, 349 to me. And the way it works is 5 points for a completely correct scoreline, 1 point for a correct result. And the star man, once you pick that man, you can't pick them again for the rest of the season. 5 points for a goal, 2 points for an assist. Starting off at Stamford Bridge, where Chelsea beat Everton 1-0. Sim went for 0-0. I went for 1-1. So obviously it was going to be 1-0 to Chelsea.
Of course.
And look, ready for Chelsea. We both predicted them not to win. And that's 2 back-to-back wins in 2 really hard games.
Yeah, and they got the win over the line, which is they needed at this point. Again, not the most impressive display, but probably just about deserved it. And against an Everton team who are tough to beat, you got to say fair play to them. And it's 3 points they desperately needed in this Champions League race. But tougher tests are to come, and it's still extremely tight. Only 3 points off 7th, so they can't really take their foot off the gas right now. But you know, in terms of these last 2 games, they had to win them, and impressive to win at Fulham away, especially 1-0 down. Got the win against Everton. They do have Liverpool in between 2 games, 2 semi-finals against Jakarta, and then they also got Newcastle, which is a massive crunch game, and they've got United and Forest. So some very tough games for Chelsea to down the end of the season, but they've put themselves in a decent position to get that 5th spot.
To be fair, though, that Liverpool game after the weekend has become a hell of a lot easier now. Now they've, nothing to play for.
It is, but it'll be interesting how Chelsea approach it, because in the previous game against Legia, he didn't rest players. He played a full-strength team. So if he does that again and then plays against Liverpool, wherever state Liverpool, and it's still a tough game, it's still Liverpool.
Yeah.
And they've got nothing else to play for. So, like, as much as they're probably taking their foot off the gas, they're not like, it's not like they're not focusing on any other game. It's the only game they're focusing on.
True. Let's move on to Brighton 3, West Ham 2. Both of us get a point for this one. We both predicted 2-1 to Brighton. And West Ham went 2-1 up with like 7 minutes to go. And quite unbelievably, Mitoma scores in the 89th minute, and Baleba scored an absolute screamer in stoppage time. Which, if you're Graham Potter, if you're a West Ham fan, you must be thinking, when the hell are we going to get 3 points over the line? You go 2-1 up away at Brighton with 7 minutes left to play. You're thinking, oh, West Ham are on to 3 points. But what an almighty collapse that was.
And it was almost a perfect away performance, because they kept it tight. They found a couple of moments. It was a brilliant goal right at the end for Souček, thinking great away win. Away at Brighton, not easy to do. But they just collapsed right at the end. Poor defending from Mitoma's goal. And then Baleba, what a goal there was from him, Baleba, to score from 30 yards. Fair play to him. Brilliant way to win it. But Potter in his press conference was absolutely tearing his hair out. He was asked if he's frustrated. He's like, "What do you mean, am I frustrated? I'm also sitting here. I'm human too. Of course I'm frustrated watching that game." He's like, "I'm sick of talking about positives. I'm sick of talking about all these things.
If you want me to swear, I'll swear."
Yeah. And he's clearly he's getting very frustrated with what's going on at West Ham and the results they're getting and stuff like that. Understandably so, because just continually losing games and all dropping points, and he's obviously taken the brunt of it, and things just haven't really gone to plan since he's taken over at West Ham, to be honest. Hasn't really made the change that he wanted it to be fair. So he's getting very frustrated, and especially in this kind of game when they've got the lead, you thought, wow, this is he's masterminded a brilliant win away at Brighton, and they couldn't even hang on to it for 7 minutes. Even a draw, they couldn't even hang on to a draw. So he's got to be tearing his hair out. But Brighton stopping the rot with that win, just about getting over the line.
Yeah, I don't think it will mean much for Brighton. They are sitting 9th in the league, aren't they? 6 points away from Aston Villa in 7th, but could they be getting like Europa, Conference League or something? Where would Conference League be? Because it might be lower than 7th.
Well, depends if City win if Palace win the FA Cup, they get it. But if City win the FA Cup, it goes down to 8th.
And if Spurs or United win the Europa League,
and if Spurs or United win does that make a difference?
No, it doesn't actually, because they get Champions League spot.
No, so I think they'll have to finish 8th if City win the FA Cup. So can they finish 8th?
Yeah, they can. They're level of points with Fulham.
Yeah, so there is a battle for 8th, which, City win the FA Cup is not unlikely, is it? So, I think 8th place is a good shout.
I guess there is stuff to play for then for Brighton still. Yeah. Next up, Newcastle against Ipswich. Finished 3-0 to Newcastle on the day. Sim went for 3-0, so he gets a 5-point. I went for 4-1. And, yeah, look, it was kind of the game you expected. Ipswich go down to 10 men. This game was marred by disgusting refereeing, to be honest. I don't know if you saw it, but there was just like mad decisions going on throughout the whole game. Ben Johnson gets booked and then red carded, and he gets sent off, and it was 0-0 at that point. But Newcastle should have probably been about 2-0 up by that point anyway.
So what was the disgusting decisions?
Oh, there was so many, man. There was so many penalty shouts, potential other sending offs as well.
As in, like, Newcastle were the beneficiaries, or?
I think Ipswich were, to be honest, but I think, no, on both sides. It was happening on both sides.
Fair enough. But look, it's a win you expect. I was watching some of the highlights. I haven't really seen everything, but yeah, look, Newcastle obviously had to win that game, considering they've got big games against like Chelsea and stuff coming up, and this race for the top four is so tight. They don't have an easy games left. They got away at Brighton, then they got Chelsea, then Arsenal and Everton. So 4 tough games left for Newcastle. So it was absolutely a necessity. They won this game. They're only 5 points away from Arsenal now, which is mad to think about. They're 5 points away from Arsenal, and they're 5 points away from Villa. So they're kind of as likely to catch second as they are to drop out of the Europa League spots. But
yeah, you said last week that Man City are going to finish above Arsenal. So why not Newcastle?
Well, because City have a lot of easier fixtures, I would say, than Newcastle. But it's going to be very, very tight.
Newcastle have Arsenal to play.
And they have,
And Arsenal could be, on the way to a Champions League final, which they might rest a few players for that one. So if Newcastle can beat Arsenal in that game, you never know.
But also, maybe Arsenal could end up finishing 5th, which would be crazy if that happens. Which, given their form, Arsenal wouldn't completely rule out them having struggles in their remaining Premier League games. And also, obviously, playing Newcastle with in between some Champions League games is going to be very, very tough. So it's going to be interesting if they can drag Arsenal into it, but I doubt it. But yeah, look, Newcastle, they kind of got back to winning ways after what was a terrible performance against Villa. And Ipswich officially relegated, the third team to be officially relegated. So no surprise there. But yeah, I mean...
Apparently this is the earliest ever
all three
teams have been relegated, confirmed.
Well,
it just shows you we talk about it a lot, but it just shows you the gap between the Championship and the Premier League is just widening and widening.
Yeah, but it's weird to say. I mean, it's true because the last 2 years, all 3 teams have been relegated. But you look at teams like Bournemouth, Fulham. Only the year before that, they were the teams promoted, right? Mm-hmm. And they're now, mid-table Premier League teams.
Yeah.
So, are we saying that within 2 years it's completely changed?
Yeah, I just feel like it's the way the clubs have managed themselves, like Forest and Bournemouth. They invested. They invested big. These other teams are not really investing.
So what are we saying? What is the gap then? So are we saying the gap is just the teams not investing, or is it a quality gap, or what
I think it's, first of all, it goes down to the ownership of the clubs and the way they manage kind of being promoted. If you're not going to invest, then you're not going to stay up. That's the reality. But I guess that's always been the case, hasn't it?
I feel like as well, some of these clubs, maybe they're feeling, because some clubs obviously spend a lot and still go down, right? And then all of a sudden they put themselves in financial trouble. So maybe a lot of these clubs are like, let's get promoted. We'll get promoted, and then we'll try and see what we can do with the players we got, and we'll just take the parachute payments if we go back down, and we'll reinvest again. I think a lot of teams are doing that.
It's mad when you look at Luton, isn't it? Because they got relegated from the Premier League last year, and now they could be going for back-to-back relegations, Luton. And I can't believe it, because they look decent in the Premier League in some games, and they didn't really make any signings in the summer. And they're about to and they've still got a lot of the same players, apart from Ross Barkley, who was obviously massive for them. Mm-hmm. I thought they would be in a shout to come back up next season.
No, they've fallen apart.
It's madness. Anyway, let's move on to Southampton, Fulham. Southampton 1, Fulham 2. We both went for 2-1 to Fulham. So 2 5-pointers there. And Southampton take the lead early after 15 minutes. But they just couldn't hold on. 15 minutes to go. Smith Rowe scores. And in the 92nd minute, Ryan Sessegnon gives them the lead. You were a few minutes away from doing this episode in Fantasy Guess.
I get to stay a reprieve. The big one's next week, right? Southampton Leicester, the biggie, the one we've all been waiting for.
The El Crapico, the real El Crapico.
But fair play to Fulham. It's a few times Southampton have been paid back in the last minute now recently, isn't it? 'Cause
Yeah.
they did against Palace and now this one. But I think Ryan Sessegnon, man, what form that guy is on. Gets the winner in this one, and he is really starting to play himself into a lot of form right now. A lot of goals and assists quite regularly in the last few games, and maybe he's starting to finally get over those injury issues, hopefully for him, which is look, we all know there was a good player in there who's really been battling with injuries and lack of confidence for a number of years, but maybe we're starting to see signs of him finally overcoming it.
Yeah, to be honest, it's nice to see because he had such a hard time of it at Spurs. Probably all culminating at that game against Mura where he finally got his chance under Conte and he gets sent off after half an hour without touching the ball. But he had such a hard time of it in Spurs. We all had such high hopes for him when he joined as well, just after the Champions League final. And it just didn't go to plan, mainly down to injuries. And there were a few kind of moments where we thought, all right, we're starting to see Ryan Sessegnon, and then he would just get injured. But now, back at Fulham, back at his hometown club, and we're starting to see the best of him now. So I really hope he kind of kicks on from there because he just had such a hard time of it in his career so far. Next up is Wolves 3, Leicester 0. Sim went for 3-1. I went for 2-0. Did finish 3-0.
Vardy had to miss that penalty, didn't he?
Oh, did he miss a penalty? I didn't even know.
Vardy missed a penalty, yeah.
Oh, God. At 2-0.
At 2-0, yeah.
But look, this game was all about Matthias Cunha, wasn't it? 2 assists and a goal. Strand Larsen again getting on the score sheet. What a season this guy's had. What a signing it's been for Wolves. And that was that 7 wins on the bounce now? Or
6 wins, 6 wins on the bounce and a draw before that as well. So 7 unbeaten. What an end to the season Wolves are having. Fair play to them. There was one point where it did look like they were very much a relegation fight, but they've managed to completely claw their way out of it. And now they're ending the season in unbelievable form. And obviously, even without Cunha, they've won a lot of these games. But obviously, since Cunha's come back, he's strutting his stuff again. But there are very serious reports that he's on the verge of a move to Man United, which is very interesting that he's jumping at the chance to go to Man United right now before the end of the season, when you would have thought there could be a host of clubs in for him in the summer. So does that surprise you that he's just willing to jump at the chance to join United right now?
It surprises me, and it also makes me very bitter that Spurs can't do a deal like this, because I think this guy is a player of the highest calibre. He's had such a good season this year. He's been one of the best players in the Premier League this year, in my opinion. The way he's carried that Wolves team for the majority of the season, probably we haven't seen anyone do that this season like him. Literally, he's had the whole team on his shoulders for the majority of it. The dribbling ability, the ball carrying ability that this guy has, the knack to score goals from places where he just has no right to score a goal from as well. I don't know the stats, but he must have completely outperformed his XG this year by a crazy amount, because the amount of goals that he's scored from outside the box and stuff has been brilliant. He's been so clinical this year. And it makes me so bitter that Spurs can't do a deal like this when a club like Manchester United, who are in a very similar position to us, are going to be doing a deal and bringing him in and acting like a serious club. But credit to Manchester United. But if I was Cunha, I'll be waiting till the summer to see what other clubs come in for me.
Yeah, I'm surprised he's jumping at that chance to go there. But yeah, if Wolves do lose Cunha, which is obviously inevitable this summer, so they're going to need to recruit smartly, because he has been carrying them a lot. And I know they have won a few games recently without him, which maybe shows there is life without Cunha. But I can still see him being in a bit of trouble if they don't recruit smartly this summer, if they lose him.
Yeah, I think, look, Strand Larsen has obviously stepped up massively when Cunha was out. And I think, Wolves have a decent squad there. And then when you're looking at the teams coming up, Burnley, Leeds, and potentially one other, and maybe you've got some other teams that are going to be dragged into it. I think when you're looking at the quality that Wolves have, even without Cunha, I still think they should be all right, but they just need to recruit smartly, don't they? Yeah, you're right. Next up is Bournemouth against Manchester United, which finished 1-1. Sim went for 2-1 to Bournemouth. I went for 1-1, so I get a 5-pointer in this one. And Man United at the death against 10-man Bournemouth.
Yeah. Fair play to United, because they were knocking on the door for a lot of this game, albeit Bournemouth probably were deservedly in the lead at the start. But all kind of switched on a red card for Evan Nilsson, which I've watched back, and it was a VAR given red card. And I don't know if VAR should be given that red card. I know it was kind of a rough challenge, but he kind of slips. He doesn't make unbelievable contact with him. I don't know if it's a red, in my opinion. I think it was a bit harsh to go back on VAR and send him off for that, in my opinion. So I think Bournemouth can feel a bit aggrieved for that. And United were able to get a draw right at the death, a decent point, and fair play to him, albeit did play a very strong team ahead of their Europa League semi-final on Thursday.
Yeah, and there's also rumours that Amad Diallo is back in training for the end of the season, which was a big surprise, but it's massive for Man United, that, because he was brilliant before his injury. But you know what? I'm looking at Man United, and I do see improvements week by week in terms of the way they set up, the way they're able to hurt opponents. And I think Ruben Amorim is really starting to maybe find his feet a little bit at Manchester United.
I don't know. I haven't really. I mean, they beat Lyon, fair play, which was a crazy game. But I'm not saying the results are improving. I'm just saying, like, on the pitch, you're starting to see a bit more of a structure and a bit more of Manchester United being able to hurt the opposition. Yeah, probably. You're seeing a bit more of that. I wouldn't go as far as say he's starting to find his feet, but I would say things are slowly improving, I would say. Yeah, but very slowly.
And last but not least, Liverpool 5, Tottenham 1. Sim went for 4-2. I went for 3-2. But yeah, it was 5-1. Embarrassing display. Spurs go 1-0 up early doors with Solanke from the corner. And after that, it was pretty much one-way traffic, and Spurs players gave up on the pitch, really.
Yeah. It was obviously the battering, which is not all unsurprising. Liverpool confirming their league title, their second league title. Where do you think that league title ranks amongst managerial achievements, like over the years? Slots for winning it in his first season.
Well, he's won it without any investment in the summer as well, which has got to be taken into account. I don't know, but how would you judge a kind of achievement like that, winning the league? I think Klopp obviously left him with a very good team. Mm-hmm. I think this won't happen if Man City don't have that drop-off. I think it's a very good achievement. I don't know where it ranks in terms of other managers. Is it better than
Conte winning it in his first season, or Jose in his first season?
I don't think it's better than Conte winning it in his first season, because I think the team was much better, more like set up for this Liverpool side to go and do it. But I don't know. I don't really know where it ranks in terms of achievements.
I think Spurs that season probably going to get more than Arsenal this season, I would say.
Yeah.
So maybe they got more competition. You could argue Conte.
I think probably both sides didn't.
In fact, Slot's probably going to get similar points to what Spurs got that season.
Yeah, that's the reality. Look, the reality is with Liverpool, right? I don't think they've been even that good this season. I just think the quality of the league has kind of not been as strong as it has been over the past 4 or 5 years. So the almighty Man City drop-off has massively worked in Liverpool's favour. That's the reality. And on top of that, the Arsenal drop-off as well. Yeah.
Well, to be fair, I think Liverpool in the end finished on 84 last season. They're on 82, so they're probably going to beat that by a decent amount, that 84 points. They have improved, and they'll be well-deserved winners. But if you do look at the points tallies of Arsenal in second and like third place at the moment, Newcastle, those are usually the points tallies at this point, challenging for top 4, not challenging for a title. So for sure he's been the beneficiary of that. But you would also say the points tally they're on is usually a title challenging points tally.
Who, Liverpool?
Yeah, at this point, 82 with 4 games to go.
I mean,
they could get 90 points.
Yeah, I guess. But Man City have just like kind of warped what like a title-winning team should be doing, hasn't it? Because like the last 4 years have been something that we've never seen in the Premier League consistently before.
Considering as well, you've got to remember how United dropped off after Fergie, how Arsenal dropped off after Wenger was there. The fact that Slot's come in his first year off under the cloud of a legend of Jurgen Klopp, who has been so good, and he's won it in his first year.
I think it's different though, because you're looking at the state of the playing staff and personnel that maybe Fergie left United in. They were all aging. It was all coming to an end of a cycle. He probably never had the right to win the league in his last year with the squad that he had anyway. He's just an unbelievable manager and got them there. Klopp pretty much did the rebuild for Slot and then left. So it's a bit different.
Yeah, I agree with that, and that's obviously credit to Klopp, I guess, as well, how he left the Liverpool and how we didn't leave him with all that work to do, like maybe Wenger and Fergie did when they left. So I think that's a good point.
And also Arsenal,
but no one was
also
predicting to win the
massively in
league, though.
decline anyway. Like they hadn't won a league for ages before Wenger.
But no one's predicting Slot to win it this
No,
year.
they weren't, and everyone was saying. I think everyone was looking at Wenger and Fergie and the end of their tenures and saying, oh, it's definitely going to be the same for Klopp and Slot. But when you actually look back at it and look at the work that Klopp did and the signings that he made before he left, I think it does make sense.
Do you think? But do you believe it'll be much tougher for them next year?
100%. I think City will be back next season. I think Arsenal will be stronger next season. You might have a few surprises with a few other teams as well. I don't know if Liverpool do back-to-back leagues. I think Man City will be back next season.
I agree. I'm not certain they will, especially with Trent leaving as well. I don't know if they go back-to-back.
Yeah, and also you've got Van Dijk and Salah another year older. Are they going to be able to continue playing at the levels that they're playing at? I'm also uncertain about that. So they need to make heavy investment this summer, Liverpool, if they're going to be champions again.
Agreed.
And star men. Sim had Matthias Cunha, 1 goal and 2 assists. 9-point haul for Sim for star man this
Cunha.
week. I had Harvey Barnes, 0 goals, 0 assists. So Sim did make a bit of ground this weekend.
I did, just a couple more weeks like this and then back in it, back
Yeah.
in it. So
Weeks are running out now.
4 more. Just we need some big weeks. Look, you saved yourself that United goal. Otherwise, it would have been about 15 points, and all of a sudden, that's 1 week away.
Before the United game, on Saturday night, we were talking, and you half the gap. But then that 5-pointer just saved me a little bit.
All right, but we've seen 22 points is very much recoverable, even in a short space of time. We just need to be very clever with my picks.
Yeah. Well, let us know in the comment section below. Do you think Sim can make the miraculous comeback? It is 22 points. I think it was 32 points last week. So 10 points absolutely gained this week. But we'll see. Game week 34 next. So we'll be back on Wednesday for Predict the Prem.